Deep in the autumnal forests of southeastern Skyrim, sitting on the shore of a great lake, we can come across an interesting town. Picturesque in a lot of ways, inviting at first viewing. But behind every eye and alley lies a dark, devious nature. Welcome to Oddities, a show where we take a look at locations in games to find details, moments, and minutiae we just think are interesting. Celebrating the mundane that someone still had to put thought into, and supposing tiny stories that could coincide. So grab yourself a tea or a coffee, and sit back as we explore together. Today, we're here in Riften, Skyrim's local den of thievery and corruption. Not a place that welcomes the honest. Those looking to remain true to themselves, or impart a positive change, might just find themselves dragged into the muck as well. For it's on every level of the city that this criminality festers. From the downtrodden beggars in the Ratway, to the well-adorned courtiers and landowners skulking in the shadows of the Jarl's court. But when corruption is so rife, it becomes the norm, and morality shifts and changes to suit the ones in charge. Daggers in the dark become typical business, and those not participating are simply seeking the sharp end. Ownership is only measured in the amount of guards you have watching over your goods. Yet, they too are simply swords, also to be levied and traded. We are far beyond the simplicity of Whiterun in these parts. Every word has a whisper behind it. Veiled messages that have become a courtesy in and of themselves. But within this scary place, people do still have to live, go about their simple day-to-day, feed and clothe themselves, and get transportation. Before the walls, we can come across the Riften stables, owned by a burly man named Hofgrir Horsecrusher. He stands, watching the road and waiting for potential customers to arrive, seeking a place to purchase a steed, or rest their own. There's only 2 spaces available for horses, unless Hofgrir often sticks more than one in each. Each one has a nice big pail of hay to munch on, but looking around, I couldn't find any more supplies to keep them fed and groomed. Only these barrels here, by the house, full of fish, likely for Hofgrir and his assistant Shadir to dine on. Perhaps they've forgotten to pop into town for a shop, unless that's what Shadir was intending to do when he was accosted by the thief Sapphire. Either way, they probably want to invest in some food soon, or their reputation as a stable won't remain too positive. It's simple living within their small cottage. At least they haven't forgotten to remain well stocked for themselves, with this large pantry filled with food. Hofgrir and Shadir share a bedroom. You can imagine the morning sun shining in through the window above, waking them to begin working with the horses in the cold air. One of the stablemen remembering to set a broth by the fire for the day's end. Though this woven basket is a little close to the fire basin for my liking. Good thing they live right next to a lake. The walls of Riften are old and covered in moss, but stand much stronger than those we observed in Whiterun. Over the years, only their tops have corroded, but their entire perimeter remains secure. In fact, coming over to the southern edge of town, we can find that even the moss falls away. What rises are these giant grey walls, well kempt and in great nick. I guess at least some of the money that flows through here, however ill-gotten, is put to some civic use. Ironically, in regards to the war, Riften might be one of the safest cities to hide within. You have these impassable mountains to the southeast, the lake to the west, and the northern roads are heavily defended by these watchtowers, as we observed in our Open Roads episode on the Rift. An army could try and come from beneath the mountains, but we've already seen how that would probably turn out. Should an invading force make it to the gates, they would find it to be quite a squeeze, with this tiny archway in their path. Speaking of the entrance, people must favour entering through the centre, for there's a single divot and plants growing well on either side. Do they funnel large groups within in single file? If so, it's probably so the guards can shake each person down individually. Atop the wall, the guards have this nice little area where they can provide overwatch, rain down arrows and rocks, or simply lounge around and watch the fishing boats sail around the lake. Also, doesn't the flooring look a little like dragon scales? A lattice work of interconnected slabs that are more decorative than one would expect of a simple guards post. Perhaps the wealthy elite of Riften like to remind the guards of what they provide. They could be stationed in the crumbling towers of Whiterun, or the blistering cold of Dawnstar. Yet they're here. And I'm sure all it takes to remain here is to turn the other way from time to time. From the very instant we enter Riften, the architecture betrays the attitude of the city. The wealthy and powerful are literally placed on top of those below them. Huge wooden scaffolds and foundations, propping up giant houses, squashing the smaller hovels below. And the further one descends, the worse conditions get, until we're deep below the city. Smoky alleyways and lonely gardens are abound. The city full of tiny little places to conduct unsavoury business. One stark difference between here and Whiterun is the distinct lack of guards we can see. Usually only one at each post, with plenty of blind spots sitting conveniently around the place. The path forward is well used, stamped down over time to conform to the landscape. Being this close to the lake, I'd imagine the earth beneath us is quite damp. We can peer into one of the nicer houses, belonging to Bolly and his wife, Nivenor. It seems space is at a premium in Riften, for it's quite compact in here. But what the place lacks in width, it makes up for in height, with 3 stories for the couple to make use of. There isn't a window to be seen, no sunlight entering the place at all. I suppose that could be a good thing in Riften, a way to keep wandering eyes away. Though mould, rot and disease would set in quite easily. And with Bolly working at the fishery, I'm sure they'd have to invest in a mountain of perfumes and incense. Though their marriage isn't the happiest, they do seem to take meals together. Their little table here, topped with a dinner that awaits them upon the day's end. Bolly holds on to hope, perhaps trying to rekindle what they once had. It seems like a lost cause. A letter, detailing a private investigator's findings about Nivenor's extramarital activities, sits by the bed. Literally the first building entered, and already we've come across a scandal. Adding to this, it seems Bolly's acts of love might come from a deep-set guilt. The secret betrayed by Svana over at Helga's bunkhouse. It seems Bolly too has not been the most faithful partner. But his hypocrisy is answered by Nivenor's apathy. Either one of them likes to collect brooms, or they have servants who come to clean their house. This back storeroom full of them. They do seem to make a 4 in Roman numerals. I'll let the conspiracy theorists take care of that one though. Next door lives Aaron, who has elected to house the Nord warrior, Mjol the lioness. Instead of the small table we saw his neighbours eating at, Aaron sits his guests at this large thing. A table fit for a feast, crafted with lovely dark wood. This might be one of the only honest homes in the city, Mjol having a great distaste for all things criminal. And even without that context, it does feel brighter, more homey than other dwellings. Even the basement is well lit. You have spots for guests to sit and stay. An invitation into the home, likely a very coveted sign of trust in this place. Assured they won't steal anything, nor try to kill you in the night. It could be a bit of naivety on Aaron's part. I'm sure some would have taken advantage of his welcoming nature had he not been hosting such a warrior. There are weapons tucked away, just in case. Further evidence of Aaron's charitable nature is the room he's given Mjol. It appears this is the main bedroom. The bed topped with linens and plenty of space for a desk, chest, and anything else you might need. While Aaron's room is quite cramped, with hides adorning his bed. It could be that this room was used for something else, perhaps an office, and Aaron has transformed it into a sleeping chamber upon inviting Mjol in. At what point does it become concerning how much Aaron gives to Mjol? He follows her around all day, and even should you marry her, he will pack up and come right along. The vibes of the place, bright and honest, yes, but a little strange at times. The Snowshod clan live in their manor just down the way. The family's quite influential in the city. Asgeir Snowshod, working as a partner at the Blackbriar Meadery. This influence can be seen in their home, being similar in build to the last two we visited along the street, but much wider, taller, and filled with treasures and supplies. They too have a large dinner table, sporting these awesome carved stools. You wouldn't want to trip and impale yourself on those in the middle of the night. They have some more chairs placed below in the basement, likely for hosting parties and other gatherings. Being involved in the business side of Riften, I'm sure they entertain all kinds of guests, honest and otherwise. Despite their wealth, it looks like one of them was busy chopping all this firewood down here, keeping the hearth fueled to fend off the cold mists drifting across the lake. Their Nordic heritage is on clear display, with various weapons and shields adorning the halls, likely passed down over generations, or plucked from the field of battle as souvenirs of conquest. It seems to be the theme of the lot not to include windows in your house. Even this larger manor, ironically living not unlike those down in the Ratway, just with better amenities. That being said, this main bedroom is very cozy, with the fire roaring just nearby the bed, sending golden light all around the room. It's the type of place to curl up with a good book, listening to the rainfall outside or the bustle of the distant market. Danger and darkness so close, but here, behind thick walls, it feels as if it cannot touch you at all. But that danger will reach Asgir Snowshod before too long. The poor guy being groom to the ill-fated Vittoria Vici. Weirdly, taking a walk along the exterior of this stretch of houses reveals windows looking down to the streets. Unless the places sport some secret rooms, I guess these windows are just for exterior decoration. But I wouldn't put it past the residents to have hidden nooks and crannies within their houses. There is another house along the street, but we'll take a look at that a little later. Instead, we can check out the extravagant Temple of Mara, an ironic patron defined within a city festering in so much ill will and malcontent towards the fellow man. Though, one could argue that's where she might be needed most, to inspire at least some good nature among the populace of Riften. Enclosed behind a mossy wall, the place is tranquil and thoughtful, a reprieve from the boardwalks and busy streets. Everything is well ordered and symmetrical. The followers at the temple tending to the place, perhaps finding meditation in the upkeep of the gardens. Inside, we find more symmetry. Shelves stacked neatly, and bits and bobs organised in corners. The golden statue of Mara in the centre of it all. The pews sport elaborate carvings, with more dragon and avian imagery. It is an interesting choice to place this temple in the centre of a town so related to criminal themes. The love of a mother, or want to be loved by a motherly figure, a very grounding motif, even for the most hardened of characters. Or you could take it as hope, love and community, able to form even among distrust. The acolytes here fighting, despite the nature of the world, adamant that conflict is only ever temporary. Perhaps the ordered nature of their sanctuary is a form of this protest, the eye of the storm, in a way. Connected to the Temple of Mara is Riften's Hall of the Dead, where the priestess of Arche, Alessandra, works tirelessly to prepare bodies for funeral rites. We can see that one such body has recently been delivered, a Nord who now lies on a candlelit table, waiting to be wrapped in a linen shroud. Alessandra has used a sack of potatoes to prop her head up for ease of access. It seems she lacks quite a few of the supplies that a Hall of the Dead usually enjoys, and I'm sure proper pillows are at a premium with the war going on. A juxtaposition from the warm organisation of the Temple of Mara, the Hall of the Dead is chaotic, with cobwebs growing in the corners and bodies and tools dumped all over the place. Speaking with Alessandra, we can learn that she never truly wanted to be a servant of Arche, and this apathy towards the work might be a manifestation of that. Interestingly, a poor relationship with her father, who raised her as an acolyte, is what appears to have soured her nature. Such a story found in a place physically connected to the Temple of Mara, which celebrates motherhood. Perhaps an intentional reflection on parenthood, or just a coincidence. Of course, the Hall of the Dead features a small graveyard just outside, with a rather suspicious mausoleum. With this fence, they might run out of room for new headstones soon. Good thing there's plenty of space below. Talos watches just nearby, tucked out of the way but still in a sanctuary of his own, the trees growing strong all around. Just over here, we can find Blackbriar Manor, the real Jarl's Longhouse, one could say. Maven Blackbriar, controlling most of the city with her business schemes, wealth, and relationships with criminal guilds. That wealth is apparent as soon as we enter. The feast table topped with countless foodstuffs, pies and cheeses, bread, vegetables and fish. There's not a soul around to eat, so I suppose most of it is going to waste. Not that they can't afford it. It seems the entire ground floor is designed to entertain guests, with multiple wide rooms to host within. Mead and wine is stocked to the brim to pour. Partners coming to sit in chairs to conduct business. I'm sure more than one dark deed has been planned behind these walls. I'd suppose only Maven's closest allies would be allowed within, most of her empire being controlled through intermediaries that represent her will. Those like Maul, who stalk the streets of Riften, keeping an eye on things for her. Maven's personal chambers take up almost half of the upper floor. A grand room with a fire roaring at the far end. Letters sit on her desk from all kinds of local business owners who have some grievance or other with her methods. Some beg her forgiveness, while others are making an attempt to stand up for themselves. I don't think the braver of the two is long for this world. She has a door that leads out to a balcony, where she can peer over the market, a queen looking over her subjects. Otherwise, it could serve as an escape route, should she need to make a quick getaway. I'm sure an attempt on her life wouldn't be unforeseen. Down in the basement, Maven has tucked Ingun, her daughter, away. The woman much more interested in alchemy than the family business, which Maven clearly resents. But Ingun doesn't seem to mind. Now she has plenty of storage for her myriad of ingredients, and can practice her craft in peace. Maven seems to struggle with Ingun not taking after her, projecting an ideal upon her daughter. A struggle in that she cannot see herself, but rather a fully formed person she cannot exert control over. Something I'm sure Maven isn't used to. We can get a peek into Maven's methods, should we take a look behind this locked door. Within lies a ritual, the Black Sacrament. It seems Maven needs someone killed. I wonder who this poor skeleton was. Someone who wronged Maven? Or one of the downtrodden, plucked from the ratway by one of Maven's henchmen? With her vengeful nature, I'm sure this person did something to offend her, and now serves as nothing more than an avenue to take down a bigger fish. Officially, Mistvale Keep is the seat of power in the Rift, should you ignore the Blackbriars. It sits just up here, overlooking the rest of the lakeside town. It's separated by this horseshoe of a wall, but isn't gated off. More of a pinch point, should an invading army make their way into the city. The exterior reminds me a little bit of the Forest Temple from Ocarina of Time. Ancient and a little melancholy. The wind blowing through hollow halls. This is a training yard, where the Riften guards can hone their skills and keep their weapons sharp. Get some exercise by chopping wood, and down some ale once properly parched. With the Rift's autumnal nature, leaves are spread all over the walkways. I'm sure servants try to keep the place swept, but it seems like a losing battle. The interior is as grand as any would expect. A great fire pit flanked by the feast table. The Jarl's subjects coming and going, stopping for a bite to eat or regaling her with messages and stories. Though the walls stretch upwards, you can't help but feel a little boxed in. Not much space to move, and even less space to speak in private. Even here, you can feel Maven's eyes watching. Despite the seeming lack of space, Willandria, the court wizard, has been allowed an entire room for her experiments and concoctions. Layla Lawgiver sits here, her throne above the rest of the hall. She has a book to read once the hall sits empty, and she has little else to do. Between Anuriel, her steward, and Maven Blackbriar, I don't think Layla actually has to make many decisions herself. She seems rather content with ignoring the grievances within the city, trusting the word of her supposed allies implicitly. She's a delegator, but not a doer. A name to be used by others. The true state of her power is revealed in this letter, in which Maven is giving her direct orders. No need for subtextual hints or honeyed words, just pen to paper with simple instructions. Though Layla seems to be doing well for herself among these deals, with plenty of jewellery and gold lying about, despite her crying poor. It looks like the keep storeroom and dining hall have been co-opted by Gonnar here, the Stormcloak representative. He's plonked his map down here, which he now pores over, planning to stamp the Empire out of the Rift. He's got plenty to munch on, as he thinks. Directly behind him are the guards' barracks, where the Riften soldiers spend their free time. It's much bigger than Whiterun's, and well equipped. The soldiers want for nothing, with countless weapons, plenty of food, and endless amounts of ale. It's clear someone is keeping them happy. They seem to be fond of hunting, trophies adorning each wall, representations of their conquests. Perhaps these beasts were pestering the city, eventually taken down by the guards in a tale of heroics. But knowing the soldiers of the Rift, I'm sure these stories are slightly exaggerated. The Jarl's chambers are on the upper floors of the keep. Huge firelit rooms with linen beds. All the luxuries that come with being the Jarl abound. It seems Layla's son, Harald, is interested in great tales of beasts and adventures, him forming quite the collection of tomes. He is the more immature of her sons, excited by the concept of war rather than fearful of it. Perhaps this stems from his love of literature, seeing himself within the pages, and this war as a chance to solidify his name in the history of ink. The other son, Serlund, sleeps across the way. A much more moderate man, interested in the political side of the war, finding himself in heavy disagreement with Ulfric Stormcloak as a man. It seems Serlund is interested in music, sporting a lute in his room. Something to keep him occupied, I suppose, as he spends his days inside, not allowed to exit the keep on his mother's orders. She has the biggest chamber, of course, a mix between living room and bedroom, one half relegated to seating around the fireplace, the other for her huge bed. Here we can find yet another unusual gem. How fun. I wonder if this armour once belonged to Layla in her younger days. Now stuck leading a city, I don't suppose she gets much of a chance to don it. Unless it belonged to an ancestor, an heirloom she now keeps close by. I wonder if somewhere, deep down, she's ashamed of the lack of control she has over her own city. With Maven running things, it would serve to keep this armour. Who knows when the Blackbriar matriarch will decide to run an impromptu election for the next Jarl. Below the keep, we can come to the Riften jail, a huge complex with countless cells. Most are empty, but there are a few prisoners here and there. It looks like the guards have amassed quite the collection of weapons and armour, probably taken off prisoners upon arrival. Something tells me a lot of this might disappear, sold off throughout the city, though I don't suppose a lot of those who arrive here will be needing their belongings afterwards. The cells aren't too bad. The incarcerated getting actual beds and tables to use. Their food delivered on plates with wine to wash it down. In some ways, it might actually be safer in here than out on the streets. Depending on what you're in for, of course. One person who doesn't have much to complain about is Sibby Blackbriar over here, who's been allowed quite the luxurious cell. It definitely helps to be a member of the most powerful family in the Rift. He can enjoy good quality food, a nice comfortable bed, and I'm sure the guards leave him well alone, not wanting to spark the ire of his mother. On the far end of town sits the famed Honor Hall Orphanage, run by Grellad the Kind, whom I'm sure we're all well acquainted with. There must be a bit of money in the place, for they've managed to get a pretty intricate sign made. It looks like it might be made out of iron. Perhaps Balamund, the blacksmith, was commissioned to make it for them. A nice looking building, but the spiked fence is a little prelude to the nature of things we find inside. It's no surprise Grellad has a Dark Brotherhood contract out to kill her. It's almost comical how cruel she is towards the children. The orphanage even sporting a small jail cell of sorts, with shackles on the walls. It's not that they lack for supplies. The storeroom is chock full and they are well equipped. The abuse is premeditated, and I can't think of a way Grelod could truly justify it. As empathetic as Constance, the assistant, is, her lack of action almost makes her complicit in the crime. Grelod has the largest room, of course, and seems to be making a pretty penny, perhaps pocketing donations, depending on the misguided goodwill of the townsfolk. However, people throughout the city are very aware of her methods. Perhaps this money comes from farther away, where the tales don't quite reach. Jarls looking to curry some civic favour by sending money to orphans. At least the kids get this little courtyard to spend some time in the sun. In the centre of town, we can find the market district, where traders peddle their wares to the populace. The aforementioned Balamund works his forge here, selling arms and armour. I'm sure plenty make use of his services in Riften. He has a nice setup, but I worry his forge won't be quite as effective when it rains, the shelter not quite reaching over. At least he can sharpen some things while he waits for the weather to improve. He lives with his apprentice, Asbjorn. The place is definitely business first, with beds tucked into corners to make room for more smithing supplies. They have countless ingots down here, all stacked neatly. Tools and oars, leather and other animal products. It's clear Balamund stays well supplied, the war keeping him very busy with orders. A letter reveals that it is his business alone, keeping the Jarl's court equipped and defended. We can explore the market proper, where Brynjolf has recruited thousands of players into the Thieves Guild. Over here, peddling his snake oil. Upkeep of the square has been a little neglected. Plants have sprouted all over, and their roots are ripping up the path. One would need to watch their footing when out for a shop. There's a well in the centre, but it's unclear if anyone uses it. Directly below us is the Ratway, and I'm not sure you'd want to drink that water. There are buckets lying around. I suppose some of the city's poorer citizens don't have much choice as to where they hydrate. While at the market, you could pop over here and visit the Blackbriar Meadery, where the Blackbriars craft their famous drink. They have an ordinary bar set up at the front, where visitors can come to sample, sitting at one of the tables as they get a taste of the rift. It's a welcoming lobby, not unlike other taverns we've entered, but knowing the Blackbriars, this welcoming nature is a facade. The smiles on employees' faces forced upon them. It is nice to allow the public in to watch the brewing process, however. From these balconies, we can peer down to see the meadery at work. Giant vats and countless barrels holding thousands of septums worth of drink. At least it seems like Maven feeds her employees. Simple salmon and grilled leeks. Better than nothing. I'm sure they don't enjoy many benefits. Indaren is the brewmaster here, and has his own grand bedroom. Coins tucked under the bed and a dagger on the side table. It's clear he's not the most honest man. An extension of Maven's arm. Though it seems he's been using her name to create rules throughout the brewery. He'd have to remain careful, pulling a stunt that could besmirch her. He is very replaceable. We can instead head to the Bee and Barb, a real tavern, and the best spot to stay should you need a room in Riften. Always bustling with travellers and townsfolk, the Argonian owners keeping the fire fed and mead flowing. It's a meeting place, for good or ill. They have all kinds of food available. Cheese wheels, apple pies, boiled treats. Someone over here was eating a raw potato. Each to their own, I guess. They have even more stored away, likely for the soup and broths they can serve guests coming in from the cold. It seems they have an excess of apples, for they've fallen out of the basket and rolled over the floor. And of course, it doesn't look like they're running out of mead anytime soon. The available rooms are simple, really only featuring a bed and not much else. But in this city, a door that locks is more than enough. They have set out some books to read for the more literate traveller. Most are related to thievery and stories of deceit, trying to inject a subliminal message about the nature of the city. Or do the citizens of Riften get a kick out of reading exploits similar to their own? It's like when your hometown is mentioned on the news. Should you have things to sell, the Pawned Prawn sits next door to the inn. Owned by Bercy, who sells all kinds of trinkets, food, armour and weapons. Anything a traveller might need before hitting the road. Bercy seems a little worried that the store doesn't have much to sell. And indeed, when we descend to the lower floor, we can see their storeroom isn't too full. I wouldn't think too hard on it though. Once the Dragonborn comes through and offloads all their treasures, Bercy will have the most sought after shop in all of Skyrim. Across the way is Helga's bunkhouse. Supposedly, somewhere to simply go and crash for the night. But spending more than a few minutes within reveals its true nature. Less of a hostel and more of a brothel. Helga, a devout follower of Dibella, and all that comes with it. For those simply coming in for bed and board, there is plenty of that. With full tables and a ton of places to crash. Poor Savannah here keeps the place very well kept. The fires and candles always lit and not a speck of dirt on the floor. But with what Helga does with some of the city's married folk, it could be she's simply helping get rid of the evidence. The back storerooms don't seem to be used. Long cobwebs growing over all the barrels and crates. Whatever is stored within is obviously not needed very often. They have plenty more tables and chairs down in the basement, ready to accommodate an influx of patrons, and more than enough food to keep them all fed. Taking a quick peek in Helga's room, we can find a shrine to her deity. Dibella watches over her as she sleeps, or gets up to other activities. I don't think these leather straps and honey were left here by accident. Interestingly, it does seem she fell for Brynjolf's scam, some of his famed Falmer blood elixir sitting on the side table, plus some assorted literature. Coming down into the canals, we can enter the lower city. People dwelling within small hovels carved into the brickwork. Traversing the maze on wooden platforms that rise only a few inches over the lake. A steady mist flows over the place, condensation setting in easily. Just meters below the upper city, and already the small instances of warmth seem a world away. Some people make do. Elgrim here has managed to set up a shop down in these dark tunnels, much to his wife's chagrin. In the depths, he's somehow squeezed in a giant countertop and countless alchemical supplies. I suppose being in the dark would help in the growing of several ingredients. This looks like it was once a kiln, now repurposed to keep the household warm. At night, I'm sure the cold seeps into this place like nothing else. Hopefully, Elgrim has some potions of cure disease close at hand. Despite the nature of the house, the two have managed to make their bedroom nice enough. Hides and candles abound, rugs on the floor that really tie the place together. With the dragons about, it might bring a sense of safety, knowing that their flames cannot reach you down here. Across from the shop is Beggar's Row, which is much more of a place you'd expect to find down here. A dark hole, lit only by a single lantern, and a fire, where the city's poor find shelter for the night. Sleeping on tiny piles of hay, scrounging for every bit of warmth they can find. Moisture drips all around, echoing down the cavernous tunnels, and who knows what things watch from the shadows. The beggars have managed to find some apples, perhaps leftovers from the bee and barb, and this puddle forming could serve as a water source, should you manage to force yourself to drink it. It gives a pang of sadness, knowing that just above, people sleep in soft beds, their hearths keeping them toasty and fed. There's a little neighbourhood further down the canal, where Maurice, Valandor and Romlin live in small houses, transforming the underground into homes despite the dark. Each are very similar, almost modular, with the location of the dividing wall being the only real difference. Above the fires, they keep herbs dried and moisture out of food. Tables and chairs are available to guests, and each haven't done too badly for themselves, with plenty to gorge on after a hard day's work. This cannot be their desired dwellings forever, but when it comes to Riften, they could do much worse. Speaking of worse, across from Romlin's house we can come across a tunnel, leading down into the dreaded Ratway, the city below the city. Entering, we are met with a sickly orange light, the moist walls running with water and blood. People live in these tunnels, traversing the endless corridors of muck, lighting these torches, defending themselves from the pitch dark. Around every corner, we can hear whispers, creaks, and groans. A factory, whose inner workings we cannot even begin to understand. In this underworld, we've crossed the threshold completely, finding ourselves in another dungeon, yet so close to the safety of city walls. People have found homes in every corner, using traps to keep others away. Giant skewers and lanterns of oil that teeter dangerously over the ground. There's not much in the way of food. The odd cheese wheel or stale piece of bread. Most others would rot away quickly down here. Of course, where there is rot, skeevers are sure to follow. Some skitter about down here, searching for discarded scraps, or trying their luck against one of the weaker dwellers. Foaming mouths carrying disease. A death sentence, if you can't get your hands on a potion. Perhaps you could talk to Gian the Fist in his small chamber here, for he has an alchemy set up. It's not that beauty cannot be found in the right way. Here, by this log, the light of day pours in and the wind whistles outside. Several butterflies have made the glade their home, uncaring about the blood and death that surrounds. The plant life grows strong, with plenty of water falling from above, sustaining them. To them, this is just another cave. The blood on the log does give it the visage of an executioner's block. Perhaps someone met a form of punishment here. The society of rats enjoying a sort of law, likely unwritten, but well understood. In this chamber here, one could mistake that it was raining with the amount of water falling from the roof. Around this keg, countless tankards line the table. A meeting of compatriots, enjoying a good drink in private, perhaps celebrating a deal that wasn't for the ears of the city to hear. But there's a door at the end of the room, an entryway to yet another tavern. An odd place to find one, to be sure. The ragged flagon tells you all it is the instant you walk through the door. Dingy and shadowed, the logo being that of daggers behind a mug of ale. This is a place of meeting, but not for the layman. The place bustles with people in dark clothing, tools and lockpicks fastened to their belts. Somehow, the proprietor, Veckel, remains stocked as any tavern on the surface. Plenty of food and drink awaiting a hungry thief. But one had better have coin. I don't think this is a place too fond of charity. You do have to wonder how often one of the Ratway's lowlifes wander into the tavern, and how the guild members react to it. I'd imagine they'd send them packing pretty quickly, though they could potentially make use of their ears as they trot about the tunnels. This table set up here is pretty cool, right under the light pouring in from above, though I'd imagine this water has a bit of a stench to it. Probably best to just stick to ale. There are tons of crates and barrels around the place. I don't think the supplies within were purchased honestly, likely relieved from their previous owners and relocated down here. They now serve as makeshift walls, shrouding the interior of the tavern from outside eyes. I've said before how much of a sucker I am for a hidden door, and behind this cabinet, we can find the tavern extending further into the cistern. Not only can the entry to the Thieves Guild headquarters be found here, but also some rooms. I wonder if these can be used by any member of the Thieves Guild, or if Vekel rents them out to members of the underworld as a normal inn would. I'm sure the guild hosts guests, clients, and other people they have dealings with. Probably best to keep them out here, under the watchful eyes of the tavern patrons, rather than allowing them deeper within the operation. You can imagine a card or dice game being played on this table here, behind closed doors, where the stakes are higher. Continuing further, we can come to the guild proper. Here in the cistern, right under the nose of Riften citizens. It seems like most members eat at the flagon, the headquarters being used primarily for sleeping and training. Mercer over here balances the books, keeping an eye on the ledger to make sure everyone is contributing their bit. There's a training ground where thieves can hone their skills in combat or lockpicking. Where they dragged an entire dwarven chest from, who knows? They have a vault down here to store all their ill-gotten gains. A strong iron door that looks like it's been retrofitted into the tunnel. You have to wonder how they had this constructed, and which blacksmith didn't ask too many questions. Unfortunately, we can already see that Mercer has helped himself to the chests, each open and empty. Heading out the other door from the Ragged Flagon, we can come to the Ratway Vaults. The farthest down we can explore in the Undercity. Down here, it's shoot on sight, with every dweller ready to throw hands the instant they see you. Clearly, they're up to something dodgy. Especially judging by this table, covered in coin purses, and these oddly sized chests. Perhaps a meeting of some criminal faction we've accidentally interrupted. Whatever purpose these tunnels once served, be it sewage or waterworks, I don't think they will be quite as effective anymore. With deep roots stretching all the way down here, feeding off the nutrients festering in the depths. You get a sense that the walls are being squeezed, nature reclaiming the dark, crushing it between long tendrils. In future years, Riften might just fall into a sinkhole. It's here, in the Warrens, hidden away from the world, that poor old Esbern lives. I'm not sure how he managed to sneak all this furniture down here. I'm sure someone would have seen him trying to squeeze this desk through the tunnels. Unless he relieved them from someone already down here. Or paid the Thieves Guild for a delivery service. Perhaps they also bring him food. Otherwise he'd have to contend with his neighbours, who aren't the most welcoming sort. It seems he spends his days writing, penning notes and novels, reading others, keeping his mind busy as he waits, either for death or the return of the last Dragonborn. Lucky for him, the latter arrives first. Interestingly, there are some candles lit all the way up here. How did someone get up there? Unless Esbern threw a fireball. But then why would he bother to undo all these chains to light some candles he won't even be able to appreciate? Just another mystery of the Ratways, I guess. Coming out of the tunnels, we can return to the fresh air and enjoy the sun once more. But while we're somewhat on the topic of the Thieves Guild, we can visit Riftweald Manor, the house we skipped earlier, for it belongs to Mercer Frey. We can see that being the leader of a guild does have its benefits, with Mercer having his own private security, countless treasures, and a table full of food. Comparing this to what his companions have to deal with down in the Ratway, you begin to understand why he might want to strike out by himself. It seems like the manor might have even had a private chef back in the day, with this large kitchen on the lower floor. I don't think Mercer would have had the time to make use of one though. His bedroom is almost as nice as Maven's, spacious, with lovely ornate rugs. All kinds of silverware is sitting around as decoration. Knowing Mercer, he might have pinched these from somewhere or other, now displaying them as trophies. This episode is great for my love of secret doors, for we can come across yet another one in the ground floor office. It's clear Mercer has spared no expense in defending his hoard, with countless traps, including flame-spewing pressure plates. It seems his house connects directly to the Ratway, able to come to and from the Thieves Guild without servicing at all, easily staying away from honest guards and do-gooders like Mjol. Down in the lowest chamber, we can find Mercer's true lair, a desk where he plans his heists and villainy. A very familiar-looking bust watching him as he works. We can find Chillrend here too. I wonder where exactly Mercer plucked this from. It's clear he's very proud of it, putting it in a display case where he can view it fondly. And that's pretty much Riften. But the city doesn't end beyond the walls. Exiting here, we can come out to the docks, home to the fishery. The brewery also extends out here, not quite able to fit in town. The fishery looks like they nurse their own fish, breeding and selling them throughout the province. They must be quite busy. Plenty of fish lying around in troughs, awaiting transport or salting and drying. It looks like swims in deep water over here, busies himself with gutting and preparing the fish. Probably useful being an Argonian, able to breathe underwater while catching. It looks like they raise slaughterfish as well, likely catching them in the lake proper. I think they would eat the other fish in the nursery if kept in here. The fishery has a little aquarium, but sadly no fish swimming within. All these dinghies must belong to the business, taken out onto the lake by contracted fishermen. The lake is sizable, fed by rivers that run all the way up to Iverstead. There is this huge longship, which looks like it also ferries in supplies to the city, probably where merchants and proprietors get their more exotic products. With nets and rods, it likely trawls the area, bringing in massive catches to be dispensed at the fishery. Despite the war, the economy seems to be booming, everyone always needing to eat. Though, you do wonder how much product and supply is requisitioned by the roaming armies. I would imagine the traders deal with increased taxation as well, making Riften a good place to make some extra coin by offloading some things under the table. Unfortunately, one of the docks has fallen away. I wonder if this was from general wear and tear, or if someone accidentally collided with it. It's still somewhat usable, I guess. if you make port on this side and remove some of these safety ropes. There's a little boat just sitting here by the warehouse, but it doesn't seem to be anchored or roped to anything. How it isn't moving is anyone's guess. Speaking of the warehouse, we can check out its interior. It doesn't look like it's used much. Storage for some extra supplies and tools. But this far away from the centre of the city, in a rather private area, it would serve well for secret meetings. A handshake or two between captains before they head out across the lake. Descending, however, we can find a locked door, and behind, certain products that might not be looked on too kindly by the law. I'm sure the Jarl would be very interested in this find. With all these secret doors about the place, you'd think these dealers would hide their stash a little better. We're almost at the end of our exploration today, but we can still take a look around the outskirts of the city. Here at Snowshod Farm, we can find a simple settlement, with a large mill, the fields growing wheat, leek and potatoes. As we observed in the open roads video, there are a strange amount of guards here. Thinking on the corruption rife within the city, we supposed that they might be here to keep an eye on things, ensuring the farm is running well and all supplies and money are going to whom they are owed. You can't help but feel their gaze on you as you explore the farm, waiting for you to carry on without asking too many questions. It's a similar situation over here at Merryfair Farm. Their operation is similar in size, with guards moseying about the place. They don't have a windmill, rather doing it by hand, growing wheat, gourds and cabbages. A quiet life for sure, able to sit and watch as the ships go about their business on the lake. And that's Riften. A den of iniquity, as Maramel would put it. But even among the rot and corruption, small moments of light can be found. People trying their best, forging a life, despite hardship. Thanks for watching. As always, if there's any particular locations, moments, or games you'd like us to take a look at, let us know in the comments. We know a lot of you use these videos to sleep, so hopefully we've provided a nice immersive tour to help you out. Be sure to let us know if you like these longer videos. Shout out to our awesome members: Thane Krios 8, Anna A2640, Najkula, Renee, Patrick Connaughton 4171, Speed of the Earth, Nathan Armstrong 6085, Call Me Jibs, and Dadney. Stay tuned for more oddities, odysseys, observations, open roads, opinions, and live streams over at twitch.tv/SamandMillie. Know that you're always welcome here, and hopefully we'll see you in the next one. Cheers.